It's been over 2 years since I've uploaded my initial Fortnite Iceberg video. That video holds a special place in my heart because it was the video which kickstarted my channel's real growth. When I first uploaded it, my channel was at around 800 subscribers, slowly but surely making my way up to 1,000. Maybe I'd hit the milestone in like half a year. When I uploaded it, it was initially slow but successful. For the first month, it had settled around 5,000 views. It was really good, not my most popular video, but I was still happy with it. But 1 month after it was uploaded, I was blessed by the algorithm and the video blew up. Within a week, the views had doubled to 10,000. A week after that, 100,000. And it quickly grew to around 400,000 views, gaining me positive attention and support. That video set me up for success with my later videos, such as my first Fortnite storyline video. But this video is now 2 years old, and between then and now, a lot has changed. First of all, that video does not hold up whatsoever. A lot of the theories I had about some of the entries back then turned out to be just straight up false. Also, since then, we've had 2 more years of Fortnite history to add into a potential iceberg. So here I am. This game's community and history is very interesting and nostalgic to me, even more so than its storyline, so this is a very exciting project to work on. And since I wanted to be thorough, this iceberg video will cover not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 iceberg charts. Obviously, there will be some repeats, but I'll cut them out to make what should be the widest variety of topics. 3 of these icebergs cover Battle Royale, while 1 of them covers Creative. I'm sorry Save the World, but like Epic Games, I'm just gonna ignore you. I also like these icebergs because they also cover the Fortnite community as well, something that my original icebergs initially ignored. Covering this iceberg will probably take more than 1 video, so after the first one is uploaded, I'll probably make a community post asking for any topics that are not in any of the icebergs above. I'll have them all linked in the description so you can take a look at them yourselves. This is going to be a hefty project, but one that I am excited for. Also, I'm just going to shamelessly plug my supporter creator code here. It's Rivecha, just like my YouTube channel name, so if you're ever buying anything in Fortnite or any supported game, please consider using it. Well then, without further ado, this is the Ultimate Fortnite Iceberg Explained. V-Bucks. V-Bucks, short for Vendor Tech Bucks, are the in-game currency for Fortnite. While they can be used in Save the World, for the purpose of this video, we will be talking about them in Battle Royale. V-Bucks are used to purchase almost every cosmetic item in-game, such as the Battle Pass and cosmetic items from the item shop. V-Bucks are sold at a pretty good rate, with 1,000 being sold at $8, 2,800 being sold for $20, 5,000 being sold for $32, and 13,500 being sold for $80. V-Bucks can also be obtained through special skin packs as well as the Battle Pass. The Battle Pass will always have enough V-Bucks to allow you to purchase the next Battle Pass, as well as a bit more, so you really only need to spend real money on 1 Battle Pass and then just get the rest for free. Live events. Live events are exactly what they sound like, events that happen live in-game. These can range from small events that happen in normal games to massive season-ending events that have cutscenes and require their own game mode. The first live events were technically in Chapter 1 Season 3, where small meteorites would fall down during the games and destroy builds, foreshadowing the massive meteor falling towards the island. The first seasonal live event was the Chapter 1 Season 4 rocket launch event, which technically didn't have its own LTM, and honestly caused controversy where people would log into a game to watch an event and just be killed by another player, meaning that they would miss out on the event. Fun fact, the solo kill record at the time was held by a player called Elemental Ray, who saw a giant viewing platform built, and decided to do a little bit of trolling by destroying it, causing 48 players to fall to their death. Due to this, Fortnite made the correct decision in the future to have all important live events be in their own LTM with killing disabled. In Chapter 1, we typically get 1 story live event per season, along with some smaller story events. We also got introduced to concert live events in Chapter 1 Season 7 through the Marshmallow Concert. In Chapters 2 and 3, the pace slowed down to around 1 major story event per 2 seasons, and we also got a couple more concerts with Travis Scott and Ariana Grande. Personally, I like the older style of live event, where stuff would be happening and we were just observers, since now the players actually actively participate in what's happening. It feels less like a cinematic event and more like a glorified arcade game now, but I'm sure that I'm in the minority here about this attitude. Sweats. Sweats is a term used to refer to players who are extremely good at the game. They're called sweats because the stereotype is that these players literally sweat over their keyboards while playing. Sweats are known to practice their building and editing for hours in Fortnite Creative, meaning that once they get into the actual game, they completely stomp other players with their building skills. You've probably heard jokes about them, something about when you shoot at a Fortnite player and they build a 5-star hotel. However, this is somewhat outdated as sweats are known for their lightning fast editing now, since the meta switched from build battles to editing box fights a good while ago. And yeah, a sweat that's good at editing is much more annoying to play against than a builder, at least in my experience. Sweats were actually a significant reason as to Fortnite's decreasing popularity a couple years ago, because if you're a casual player who came home from work to relax on Fortnite, and you immediately get killed by some 14-year-old who spent the entire day in Fortnite Creative warming up, of course you're gonna get mad with the game. This never personally affected me because I'm mostly a Team Rumble player, and hint hint, in an actual game, aim and positional play are much more important than building or editing skills. Also recently, sweats aren't much of a problem anymore for the casual player because skill-based matchmaking got better. Most people serious about competitive Fortnite either play the arena game modes or a creative map, not the base game modes, and we've also got a no building mode which evens the playing field. Additionally, sweats are known for using a certain type of skin, typically slender female body types wearing casual clothes, as they claim this gives them a competitive advantage as it provides greater vision than a bulkier skin. These skins include Aura, Dynamo, Ruby, and the female superhero skins. Funnily enough, due to the fact that an all-black superhero skin was almost impossible to see in the shadows, it was extremely popular with competitive players, so Epic actually banned its use in competitive and disabled the ability to wear an all-white or all-black superhero skin. Wild. The Loop. The Loop is a concept in the Fortnite storyline which explains why people seemingly die and come back to life. Anybody who comes to the island begins to succumb to the effects of the Loop. The Loop causes anyone trapped in it, called loopers, to slowly lose their memories and ability to speak, and heightens their aggression to make them want to kill each other. However, anybody killed under the effects of the Loop come back to life at the beginning of the next cycle. It seems like builds and destruction to the environment is also reset, but people have been able to leave messages for themselves from previous cycles, so who knows. The only way to escape the Loop is to be the last looper alive and to stand at the center of the storm as it closes in. In the lore, this allows you to escape the Loop and be unaffected by the storm, but now if you die permanently. But of course, in-game, this isn't a thing. Escaping the Loop leaves behind a snapshot of yourself, basically a clone of yourself that over time can develop its own personality. There are ways to enter the island and not get looped, which some characters do. But ultimately, the Loop is just a way for the storyline writers to incorporate the Battle Royale aspect into the main story. 0 Point. The 0 Point is the central aspect of the Fortnite lore. The 0 Point is the center of all realities, and as such can facilitate travel between different realities. Such power has motivated many different groups of interest to control the 0 Point and study it, most notably the Imagined Order. In-game, the 0 Point has been around for a good while, first being mentioned in Chapter 1 Season 4's live event, and first being seen in Chapter 1 Season 6's live event. Since then, the 0 Point has been a central part of the storylines for many seasons and live events. Most notably are Chapter 1 Season X and Chapter 2 Season 5, where the previous season's live events left the 0 Point destabilized, causing breaches in reality on the island. From our perspective, the 0 Point serves two purposes. 1. As a powerful MacGuffin to revolve the story around, and 2. To provide an in-game explanation as to why characters from outside franchises keep crossing over. Tilted Towers. Tilted Towers is the most iconic point of interest in Fortnite history. First added in Chapter 1 Season 2, it was notable because previously most of the locations in the game were either rural or small suburban areas, so having a massive city as a point of interest would be a fresh change of pace. Immediately, Tilted became the most popular drop spot on the map, and over half the lobby landing there at the beginning of the game was a pretty often occurrence. So Tilted became known as the place to drop if you wanted fast-paced action and a fun, hectic start to the match. Additionally, the close quarters indoors combat of the city made the fighting much more chaotic than elsewhere on the map. Everybody who played in Chapter 1 remembers the intense pickaxe fighting atop the clock tower. You may die quickly very often, but if you do end up winning the fights in the city, you control Tilted Towers and all the best loot within, basically making you the best equipped players for the rest of the match. The location stayed around for the majority of the chapter, undergoing some slight changes, but when it got destroyed in the Chapter 1 Season 8 event, it got rebuilt into a new point of interest, Neo Tilted, in Chapter 1 Season 9. In Chapter 1 Season X, it got transformed into Tilted Town, a Wild West version of Tilted which didn't allow building or breaking materials. Later in the season, it got transformed again into Gotham City from the Batman universe, allowing Glide to redeploy. With the Chapter 2 map change, Tilted disappeared. However, in Chapter 2 Season 5, aspects of Tilted were combined with Salty Springs to form Salty Towers. During Chapter 3 Season 1, Tilted Towers made a return in all of its original glory. It stayed for all of Chapter 3 until Chapter 4 Season 1, where it once again was removed. However, the Clock Tower still survives inside an ice cavern, so we'll see where that goes. Donald Mustard. Donald Mustard is the Chief Creative Officer of Epic Games. He also has another, probably unofficial title, the Lore Master of Fortnite. I'm not going to write a full biography of this man, but for the purposes of Fortnite, all you really need to know is that he coordinates and makes decisions about the lore, storyline, and skins in the game. He's also decently involved with the community, meaning that he is the closest thing Epic Games has to a celebrity within the Fortnite community. We'll be talking more about him later in the Iceberg. Free Fortnite. Free Fortnite is the title used to refer to a set of events, campaigns, and legal proceedings in between Epic Games and Apple. On August 13, 2020, Epic Games released Update 13.4, which introduced a new direct payment method for Fortnite on mobile devices, lowering the prices of V-Bucks and other real money purchases. Previously, the platform Fortnite was played on would take a cut from any purchases made, but with direct payment, this was no longer the case. This new system violated the policy of the Apple Store, who responded by removing Fortnite from its App Store, as well as basically every other Epic game getting kicked off as well. As such, Fortnite players who play on iOS could no longer update their games or play with people on other platforms. Epic shot back by suing Apple, as they don't allow any other application stores on their devices, creating a monopoly. By contrast, even though some Android devices also banned Fortnite from their app stores, since Android allows other app stores to be downloaded, like the Epic Games mobile app, many Android players were able to circumvent this ban. iOS users did not have this option. In order to raise awareness about the situation, Epic Games manufactured this campaign called Free Fortnite beforehand, knowing that Fortnite would be banned before it actually happened. It kicked off with this animated short called 1980 Fortnite, which parodied the famous Macintosh commercial Apple released in the 80s, and is something that I just personally have mixed opinions on. I think it's dumb, but that's just me. 10 days later, on August 23rd, players could play in the Free Fortnite Cup, in which they could earn the Tart Tycoon outfit, a character from the short meant to represent the authoritarian Big Brother Apple. The case went on for over a year, and Epic ended up losing 9 out of 10 counts, but won the count saying that Apple should allow users to use payment methods other than the iOS store. Epic CEO Tim Sweeney said that Fortnite will return to the iOS store once Apple implements this, but Apple said that they wouldn't until the case is completely over, which could still take years. I personally don't have a dog in this fight, and I don't think either side is really worth rooting for, but I just feel bad for all the iOS players who can't play Fortnite anymore. Chapters and Seasons. I guess this is less of an entry and more of an explanation for people who don't really know anything about the game. Fortnite's history can be divided up into groups of updates which make up a season, and groups of seasons which make up a chapter. Seasons are kicked off by a major update which typically brings significant map changes, new weapons, items, and features, as well as a brand new battle pass full of rewards for players. Every season is typically defined by a theme and has its own contained storyline that will eventually fit into the greater overall storyline. Each season typically lasts around 10 to 12 weeks and has weekly challenges for players to progress. Enlarging the scope, chapters are a group of seasons and are typically defined by what map they're on. Chapter 1 contains everything from the pre-season, or Season 0, to Season X, or Season 10. Afterwards we had Chapter 2, which gave us a brand new map. This chapter only lasted 8 seasons before moving on to Chapter 3, which only lasted for a measly 4 seasons. And right now, we're in Chapter 4, so I'm excited to see where the game goes from here. Season delays. So obviously in order to make new content, Epic's employees need to code it all up. This is especially true for a new season, where they have to design, implement, and test all the new features before release. However, they do sometimes need more time to do so, resulting in a season delay. The most notable example is Chapter 2 Season 3. This season was originally going to start on April 30th, 2020, but was pushed back several times to June 17th, 2020, over a month. Obviously, this was due to the pandemic, but I still remember being part of the community and witnessing the delays for the live event and the season go on for over a month. Those were some wild times. Different islands. As I mentioned before, each chapter has its own unique island map. Chapter 1's map was called Athena, Chapter 2's map was called Apollo, Chapter 3's map is called Artemis, the current Chapter 4 map is called Asteria. So yeah, there's a pattern here. All of them are named after figures in Greek mythology. Each map is decently unique and distinct from each other. In the Chapter 2 end event, it was revealed that the Chapter 3 and Chapter 2 maps were actually on the opposite sides of each other. Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. In this live event, the island was flipped to transition from Chapter 2 to Chapter 3. But where was the Chapter 1 map? Well, in the Chapter 1 end event, it got sucked into a black hole, and apparently the matter of Chapter 1 got reformed into the Chapter 2 map. The Chapter 4 map consists of fragments of the Chapter 3 map which were reformed after it fractured, as well as the 0 point bringing in chunks of land from other realities. Save the World. Fortnite Save the World is a tragic tale in my opinion. So, Save the World was the original game mode of Fortnite. It is considered a sandbox survival tower defense style horror game. Released officially in 2017, it was meant to be a zombie survival tower defense shooter. Technically, it is a horror game, but it's not necessarily scary. The premise of the game is that one day a massive storm appeared covering most of the planet and killing 98% of the human population. The storm brought with it the zombie-like husks, who attacked any remaining humans in sight. While not official, it's basically accepted that the husks are just the people who disappeared, as we can see the husks seemingly wearing their own peeled-off face, which is a striking visual. However, survivors banded together into bases and were able to develop storm shields, devices which would clear the storm in a certain radius and basically provide a safe zone from large husk attacks. You, as the commander of one of these bases, must coordinate other people to defend your storm shield from husk attacks, and go out into the wild to gather resources to upgrade your shield and weapons. The gameplay itself is serviceable. It is a repetitive loop of similar missions as you upgrade your weapons to fight against increasingly stronger husks. Save the World was a game Epic cared for a lot, and was supposed to represent a new path forward for the developers. But of course, this was disrupted when the Fortnite devs decided to make a little side mode for Save the World called Battle Royale. Of course, Battle Royale quickly exploded in popularity, meaning Epic's Fortnite team switched focus to Battle Royale, leaving Save the World in the dust. Save the World's updates and new content began slowing, until eventually, in September of 2020, Epic announced that they would stop development for Save the World. While it is sad, of course, that Save the World is basically dead in the water now, the truth is that I personally just think it wasn't necessarily a good game. I played a little bit when Epic gave Fortnite crew members the game for free, and most of it was honestly not very impressive. Like, the building mechanics must have been innovated when the game released, but after several years of Battle Royale, it really doesn't hold up. And for a shooter game, it just felt way too slow-paced and boring. It really depends on whether or not you have friends to play with you or not, as well as the characters you pick up for your team. That's the other thing. You need to pay not only to get the game, but also to get certain schematics and heroes easier. The only parts of the game I enjoyed were the wide variety of firearms, melee weapons, and abilities, all of which I want Epic to implement into Battle Royale. The truth is, creative and Battle Royale are where the future of the game lie, so while I respect Save the World for being the OG, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it dying. The Imagined Order, often abbreviated to IO, is a major group of interest in the Fortnite storyline, and they act as the de facto villains of the whole thing. They are a massive organization that have been around for thousands of years, and they want the infinite power of the 0 point for themselves. They currently are in control of the 0 point, and they use it to conduct experiments on the Fortnite island by trapping innocent people there. Despite the fact that they are villains, a lot of the storyline involves the player working for them, specifically during the last reality's invasion in Chapter 2, Season 7 and 8. We will talk more about the IO later. The Seven. The Seven are another major group of interest in the storyline of Fortnite Battle Royale. They act as our heroes. As the name suggests, they consist of 7 members: the Foundation, the Origin, the Scientist, the Paradigm, the Visitor, the Imagined, and the Order. They're a group of rebels who fight against the Imagined Order, and all of them have a unique skill set that helped them in this fight. Of course, the 7 have allies or even just people who work for them, the most notable of whom is John Jones, an Imagined Order agent who defected to join the cause of the 7. Rifts. Rifts are a mechanic in-game as well as a story element. Rifts essentially allow instant travel within a universe, or more importantly, in between universes. There are 2 different types of rifts: pure portals, which are stable, controllable rifts open with the power of the 0 point itself, and sideways portals, which are kind of unstable backdoors. Most of the time, you'll be interacting with sideways portals. In the game, rift portals were first shown in Chapter 1 Season 4 when the Visitor created a giant rift in the sky, and first used in Chapter 1 Season 5, where the destabilization of reality caused rifts to appear all over the place. In-game, when you enter a rift, you are teleported high into the sky above that location, allowing you to deploy your glider and travel large distances. An item called a Rift to Go allows you to create a rift whenever you want, and an item called a Junk Rift allows you to create a rift above where you throw it, raining down debris for massive damage. Collaborations. Where would Fortnite be in the modern day without collaborations? Collabs are agreements Fortnite makes with other companies to bring something from their brand to the game. The majority of these collaborations are for skins. The first ever collaboration was the Infinity War game mode in Chapter 1 Season 4, where the Infinity Gauntlet was an item in the game that you could equip to transform into Thanos. The first skins that were a collaboration were the NFL outfits in Chapter 1 Season 6, and the first individual to get a collab was the EDM artist Marshmello, who got an in-game concert and skin. However, the collabs really began to ramp up in Chapter 2, where collabs began to dominate the battle passes and multiple collaborations would come per week. The expected ones were all there, all the big Marvel, DC, and Star Wars movies coming out then, famous classic movies and video game characters, and even some anime like Naruto and Dragon Ball. However, we did get some more niche collabs, like El Chapulín Colorado, a Mexican television show that ran from 1970 to 1993, Jean-Michel Basquiat, an American neo-expressionist artist, Radiohead, a rock band that peaked in the 90s, and Polo Ralph Lauren, the clothing company. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Fortnite is basically known as the collaboration game now, and there are so many of them. In fact, I think that the number of collab skins overtook the original skins recently, which is absolutely insane. Personally, I would prefer that Fortnite focus more on original content, but I am probably in the minority here, as it is very clear that the majority of people prefer the collaborations. They bring in massive attention and money to the game. It makes me curious as to how these business deals go down. It's known that a good chunk of the collabs are either what's popular at the time or what some of the staff like Donald Mustard personally wants in the game. For example, the collaboration with the Mistborn book series was because Mustard was good fans with the author of those books. But I still can't help but think how ridiculous some of these agreements could have been. Like, imagine Donald Mustard going out to whoever manages the rights to Radiohead songs and ask, "Hey, can we collaborate with you guys to bring your songs to our kids game where most of the people playing it were born like 15 years after your band's peak?" I guess everybody ends up making money in the end, which is all that matters to them. Tie-in comics. Similar to the collaborations, we also got some tie-in comics for Fortnite. The first was this in-game Marvel comic we could read nearing the end of Chapter 2 Season 3, explaining why Thor came to the island and setting up the Galactus plot for Chapter 2 Season 4. A couple months later, we got the Batman 0 Point comics, a DC series where Batman gets trapped in a loop on the island and has to figure out how to escape to get back to Gotham. I liked this one. It was just a cool little side story that gave voices to some original Fortnite characters and dropped some interesting lore tidbits. However, a couple months later, we got the Batman Foundation one-shots, which was much less impressive. The comic didn't really need a reason to exist, and it was only to show what happened to the Foundation after the cliffhanger in the Chapter 2 Season 7 trailer. It really sucks because I don't think that something this important to the overall Fortnite narrative should be relegated to a crossover comic, that in the end isn't even that entertaining to read. But the problem worsens with the most recent comic, Fortnite x Marvel Zero War, where they basically decide to put the whole Fortnite storyline into the comic. I haven't read this one, but overall consensus seems to be pretty negative, especially since they decided to reveal Gino in this comic. Why would Fortnite reveal the big bad villain of their story in a crossover comic instead of in-game? I don't know. The comic itself feels very disconnected from the events of the game too. Overall, I don't have much good to say about crossover comics. If you want to read them for yourself, you can find links easily online. Collab POIs. Moving on to something I do enjoy, at least a little bit, we have collab POIs. These are points of interest in the Fortnite map which are tied to a collaboration. I'll go through some notable ones. In Chapter 1 Season 9, we didn't get whole POIs per se, but we instead got some small map changes. For example, a John Wick collab brought us to Continental Hotel in Neo Tilted as well as his house on the edge of the island, a pretty cool addition if I do say so myself. In fact, in the John Wick LTM, you weren't even allowed to use weapons in the building, which is a reference to the hotel's no business rule in the movies. Also in Chapter 1 Season 9, we got Stranger Things portals at Mega Mall to hype up the upcoming collab skins. In Chapter 1 Season X, we got our first major collab in Pandora from Borderlands, which would actually give you the cel-shaded art style if you were within it. We also got Gotham City replacing Tilted Town. In Chapter 2, the elephant in the room is the locations of Chapter 4, as we got some pretty hefty changes with Doom's Domain and eventually the entire Stark Labs biome. In Chapter 3, we got the Daily Bugle as a major POI as a tie-in to the Spider-Man collaboration. Creative 2.0. Before I talk about 2.0, let me just summarize what Fortnite Creative is. Creative is a game mode where people can create their own maps. This can include either mini-games or just some purely visual maps that show off players' building skills. There are a lot of players who prefer playing the creative game modes as opposed to the core game modes of Battle Royale, and Epic even supports these people, featuring map creators and even placing fan-made game modes on the same mode select screen as the Battle Royale modes. So already, Fortnite Creative is a massive success with what people can do. But once 2.0 releases, what we have now will look like child's play. Creative 2.0, also known as Unreal Editor for Fortnite, will be a new version of Fortnite Creative which will give players much more freedom and options for their custom maps. We're talking custom models and personalized code which can be deployed within Fortnite to make your own games. And these games can be monetized without having to sign a contract with Epic. Basically, imagine Roblox. You have this ecosystem where people can create their own in-depth games on this platform, except it's in Fortnite. This has the possibility to be as revolutionary for Fortnite as modded game modes were for Minecraft. As of right now, Creative 2.0 is slated to release late January 2023, but it has been delayed before, so it may be delayed again. But considering how big this is, I urge Epic to take their time. Solo events. So there are two things that this could be referring to. First, which is the one I thought it was referring to initially, is the solo event in the game, the Zero Crisis. This was notable as it wasn't a live event. You would be the only player in this event, with everybody else being NPCs. You'd also basically be walked through an interactive cutscene showing off the major events that would kick off Chapter 2 Season 6. Basically a live event, but you don't have to worry about attending at the right time or being in the lobby with waitlists. In fact, everybody would just play the event as soon as they booted up the new season. And since it was solo, it was available for everyone to replay if they wanted to. But this was the only solo event in the game, which is why I was curious as to why it was referred in the plural. And then it came to me that it could be referring to the solo cup tournaments. If it does, well, here you go I guess. They happen all the time, so you certainly won't miss out if you don't want to. Fortnitemares. Fortnitemares is a Fortnite Halloween tradition. It started all the way back during Halloween 2017, back before the game even became that popular. In this Fortnitemares, Epic released the Jacko launcher, a rocket launcher that shot explosive pumpkins, a weapon that has since become synonymous with Fortnitemares. Epic also released Halloween cosmetics like the Skull Trooper, Ghoul Trooper, and the Reaper pickaxe. However, later Fortnitemares would have more unifying themes as well as a lot more skins. Fortnitemares 2018 had a theme of a husk invasion on the island, which honestly could have been implemented better but was at least unique for the time. Fortnitemares 2019 was notable for the sheer amount of good skins they released under the Final Reckoning theme. This was my personal favorite Fortnitemares, as the skins were absolutely top-notch and creative, and the Storm King LTM was fun. Fortnitemares 2020 was a step down, as it was defined by the return of Midas, and it had this interesting mechanic where if you died, you would be reincarnated as a ghoul and could hunt down remaining living players to still win. Fortnitemares 2021 was kind of unremarkable. It was called the Wrath of the Cube Queen. Fortnite 2022 was even worse. We barely got any new original Halloween skins, and it had a weird DJ theme that didn't really hit right. But regardless, Fortnite is probably the most anticipated time of year regarding Fortnite, and we will always be excited to see what each year has in store. Vaulting. Throughout the rest of this iceberg, you'll probably hear me talking about an item being vaulted. Vaulting is an action where Epic Games will remove an item from the current loot pool of the game. This will typically happen at the beginning of an update, most frequently the beginning of a new season. However, vaulting can also occur when community backlash against an overpowered item is so great that not doing so would actively harm the state of the game. The most notable example of this is when the Infinity Sword was vaulted a mere 3 days after its release. Fun fact, in the Season 8 Unvaulting event, it is shown that the vaulted items in-universe are actually just locked in an actual vault underneath the island, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Zapatron. The Zapatron was a weapon in Battle Royale that has achieved legendary status nowadays due to how long ago it was in the game and how brief its appearance in Battle Royale was. In fact, there's only one clip of the Zapatron in Battle Royale across the entirety of the internet, which is pretty insane. The Zapatron was a legendary rarity sniper rifle, originally from the Save the World game mode, that was in the game for only a couple days, being added with patch 1.6.3 on September 26, 2017, and being removed in patch 1.6.4 on September 29, 2017. The Zapatron had two modes. It had a burst fire mode as well as a single shot mode that you had to charge up for several seconds to use. However, this shot would deal lots of damage, as the footage shows that it would hit for 150 damage points. It would use a special type of ammo called cell ammo, and both the weapon and ammo could only be found in supply drops, so the weapon was certainly very rare. The weapon was probably removed quickly because Epic thought it was too overpowered, and it kind of clashed thematically with the more grounded weapons in the game at the time, so it was removed and never came back since. We kind of got something similar in Chapter 2 Season 7 with the railgun, but it wasn't the exact same. After the Chapter 2 Season 8 event, before Chapter 3 began, when the player character was floating in the water, one of the washed up debris that we could see was the Zapatron, so people thought that the weapon would finally be re-added into Chapter 3 Season 1, but it was not. Honestly, I think that there should be nothing stopping Epic from releasing it again. Fortnite's weapons are not grounded at all anymore, and we've had way more overpowered items in the game. Let's hope we see it again soon. Ukraine flag. When the Russia-Ukraine war started, Epic wished to show their support for Ukraine publicly. Obviously, they've done meaningful work such as donating $144 million in charities for Ukraine. However, there was also a symbolic gesture of support done in the game. Shortly after the war started, a map update brought this into the game. Blue and yellow containers stacked on top of each other, forming an image of the Ukrainian flag. Meteor hitting Tilted. In the days leading up to Chapter 1 Season 4, players would anticipate the coming of the meteor in the sky and theorize where it would land. We now know that the meteor struck Dusty Divot, but back then, a very popular theory was that it would hit Tilted Towers. This was because it was the most popular location on the map, and the one that would cause the most spectacle of hits. Also, some theorizers justified this theory by saying that Epic wanted to balance the game more, since half the lobby would land tilted, so by destroying it, it would cause players to land more evenly across the map at the beginning of the game. In the end, in spite of how widespread, popular, and even accepted this theory was, it did not happen. Superhero skins. I've already talked about the superhero skins before, but let me go into more detail here. The skins of the Boundless set, known by the community as the superhero skins, were released in Chapter 2 Season 4. There are a total of 10 skins in the set, half of them female, half of them male. Despite being legendary rarity, individually they were sold for only 1800 V-Bucks. They were notable because of the sheer amount of customization they had. You can control the colors of their uniform, skin, hair, and eyes, the material of their uniform, if their eyes glow or not, what type of mask they're wearing, and what symbol they wore on their suits, selected from your emoticons. Such customization was not seen before in Fortnite, especially where you weren't locked into a single choice, and the skins immediately became popular. However, the skins became even more historic due to their use by the competitive community. See, the female superhero skins, especially the fully masked versions, had an extremely slender and sleek build, which is the type of skin competitive players like, as it blocked less of the screen. and since you were able to choose what color your outfit was, many players would choose all black for both the suit's primary and secondary colors, as this all black combo would be very hard to see from far away and could easily blend into shadows, giving players a significant competitive advantage. Similarly, an all white superhero skin could blend in very easily against snow. In order to prevent people from gaining an unfair competitive advantage, Epic would later patch the skins to prevent people from using all black or all white combos. So yeah, these skins are very notable for being the first skins changed after release to prevent being too competitively overpowered. The only other time I could think of this happening was with the toy soldier skins, who were initially a solid green or gray, but were later patched to have mud splotches on them because people realized that the solid colored skins could blend in very easily into either foliage or concrete buildings. John Jones. John Jones is the closest character Fortnite has to a protagonist. In the storyline, he was an accomplished agent of the Imagined Order, going on many missions across different realities, including a bunch of missions into Reality Zero, which is why he left behind so many snapshots. However, after the events of Chapter 2 Season 5, where he worked hard to try and stop people from attempting to enter the Zero Point only to see that the Imagined Order did nothing to stop the destabilization of reality, he grew very angry with the Order. He started to think about getting the help of the Seven, but the Order caught on to him and revoked all of his credentials. This was the final straw, since after this he defected from the IO and went to call the Foundation himself to help. Initially, the Foundation was hostile, but Jones was able to negotiate with him and eventually they entered an uneasy alliance. Both of them worked together to fix the Zero Point, but this resulted in the Foundation trapping himself inside the Zero Point and Jones being trapped in the loop. Jones eventually escaped, but was then arrested by the IO. During the last reality's invasion of the island, the IO would try to execute him before evacuating, but they were stopped by the Foundation, who had returned in his own little side story. The Foundation freed Jones, and together they fought through IO forces to initiate the flipping of the island, ending the invasion. Since then, Jones has been a de facto member of the Seven, joining them on their various missions. Dwayne Johnson as the Foundation. As I've mentioned before, the Foundation is the leader of the Seven. Since he was revealed in Chapter 2 Season 6, it was known that his voice actor was Dwayne Johnson. However, in Chapter 2's end events, the Foundation unmasked himself to reveal that his model even looked like the actor. In the next season, the Foundation was added to the game as a skin, and had an unmasked style with the actor's face. There have been some mixed reactions about this decision. Some people love it, others hate it, while most are ambivalent. I'm in the camp that hates it. However, it is undeniable that this did bring a lot of attention to the game, both through online and mainstream means. Dead game. Dead game is a phrase used to describe how Fortnite is supposedly no longer as popular as it used to be. It has become sort of a meme in the Fortnite community, since starting around late Chapter 1, almost every official Fortnite tweet had somebody replying dead game underneath, and this was typically the first reply. Like seriously, almost every single tweet. That is insane. It's gotten so prominent that Fortnite themselves even referenced it in the Veronica outfits, with the skin's top reading Dead Game. Additionally, the tweet that they made announcing the outfit jokes that they designed it after reading the comments of their tweets. Icon Series. The Icon Series is a rarity of cosmetics that is used to denote celebrity collabs. Basically, if it's a real-life person or identity becoming a skin, it will be part of the Icon Series. It's notable because most collabs are characters, not actual people. The Icon series started off with prominent content creators in the Fortnite community like Ninja and Loserfruit. However, as the series continued, it just expanded to mean any person. For example, Marshmallow retroactively became an Icon series skin, and other people, notably athletes like Patrick Mahomes, got their own skin in the game. However, content creators are still being added slowly. PS Plus bundles. PS Plus bundles, formerly called PlayStation Plus Celebration Packs, are rewards for Fortnite players who are PlayStation Plus members. There are currently 18 of them, and they started releasing way back near the beginning of Battle Royale in February of 2018. Since then, they've been releasing at a pace of around 1 per 4 months. These packs contain all types of cosmetics from gliders to pickaxes to banners to skins. All of them tend to have a blue and white or blue and black color schemes to match those of the PlayStation. Exclusive skins. Similar to the PlayStation Celebration Packs, Exclusive skins are skins bundled with hardware releases, typically game consoles. There have been a multitude of these over the course of Fortnite history, but I'll go over some notable ones. One was the Iconic skin, which was exclusive to the Samsung Galaxy S10. The skin itself could be bought for free, but the catch was that it could only be bought on the Samsung Galaxy S10 store, which at the time was a brand new device. The skin also came with the exclusive scenario emotes, which included dance moves and music inspired by the K-pop group iKON. Due to the fact that both the skin and emote were legitimately great, there were a lot of people who wanted to get their hands on this, which actually led to a funny situation where there were tons of people going to hardware stores to try and claim the skin on one of their display S10s. An example of an early exclusive skin was the Royale Bomber, once again just a very solid, very good skin that came bundled with the PS4 Fortnite bundle. The most recent example of an exclusive skin is the Huntmaster Saber skin, which was a part of the Gilded Hunter pack for the Xbox Series X. The Nintendo Switch also has exclusives, an example being the Double Helix bundle. Another notable exclusive skin is the Reflex skin, which came bundled with several Nvidia GeForce products. The Reflex skin, as well as its pickaxe, glider, and backbling, were supposed to be exclusive. However, they would later release in the item shop, causing controversy. A lot of people who had bought the bundled set, which was hundreds of dollars, were mad that the skin that was supposed to be exclusive for them only could now be bought by anybody for a normal price in the item shop. To fix this controversy, Epic added a stealth style to all the cosmetics which were supposed to be exclusive to people who bought the Nvidia bundle. So these were just a few examples of exclusive skins. Concept skins. Concept skins refer to skins which were conceptualized and designed by fans of Fortnite and were later added into the game by Epic. There are actually a lot more of them than you would expect, but like the exclusives, some are more notable than others. This is not to say that all concept skins aren't great. They're typically among the best skins in the game, and for anybody's art to be implemented by Fortnite is a huge achievement. So let's go over some concept skins. One of the most famous concept skins of all time is Tomato Head. And many of you may be surprised to learn that he is in an Epic original design, considering how integrated to Fortnite identity Tomato Head and the other various food-based skins would become. But yes, he was originally conceptualized by Reddit user Boy, and his art was posted to the Fortnite BR subreddit in January of 2018. Later that year, in April of 2018, Tomato Head would join the game as an official skin. Keeping the food theme alive, another concept skin is the Tender Defender. The original concept, named Chicken Trooper, was created by the son of Reddit user tfaust10, who was just 8 years old. After the original concept post blew up, the user EtsyTurtle2 posted his version of the kid's concept art, which he named Tender Defender. This concept was what formally made it into the game as a skin, but the Tender Defender is still fondly remembered as the time an 8-year-old's art made it into the game. Another example of concept skins are Aura and Guild by Reddit user FantasyFull. Considering how insanely popular Aura is as a skin, it is notable that it was a concept skin, and after these skins made it into the game, she has designed many other concepts that have also made it into the game. This has kind of started a trend of Epic using multiple concepts from individual creators, the most famous of whom being Denny. Denny is an artist who has gotten so many skins in the game, all of which are of fantastic quality, regardless of whether they fit your individual taste or not. Currently, Epic holds these Concept Royales, which are competitions where artists can submit themed designs, the best of which will be selected to be a part of the game. The winners of the first Concept Royale, a winter-themed one, were Twitter users Ibdards and AltaCalls, who made the Nalia and Frigid Foregoer skins respectively. At the time of me writing the script, the most recent Concept Royale was the Halloween 2022 one, which was won by Twitter users Drio Wings and Kitsune X Kitsu, who made the Sinister Glare and Undying Sorrow skins respectively. Honestly, I hope they keep doing these Concept Royales, because they have resulted in some amazing skins. Concerts. Concerts are another form of collaboration in Fortnite. These are when a musical group or artist agree to hold a virtual concert in-game. There are 3 types of concerts in the game. The first are the more mundane ones held in the Party Royale game mode. Party Royale is a Fortnite game mode where there's really no game, it's just a place where people hang out virtually and participate in several small activities. Party Royale features a giant cinema screen where Epic will often host some viewings of videos, movies, and yes, concerts. These concerts are typically just videos on the screen with maybe some flashy lighting. They occur very commonly in Party Royale. The second one is the live event type of concerts. Now, Epic puts the same amount of effort into these as they do with their own story live events. We're talking about full-on scripted in-game events with custom animations and locations. Epic tends to save these live event concerts for very famous artists. So far, we've only had 3 of them in the game. The first was a Marshmello concert in Chapter 1 Season 7. This was on a much smaller scale compared to the other 2, but it was still quite fun. The event featured Marshmello on an in-game stage playing a mix of his music, and players would experience in-game effects and visuals synced up to the music. Overall, a very well done event. The second concert featured Travis Scott in Chapter 2 Season 2. In retrospect, this event is an excellent reason as to why Epic should err on the side of caution when it comes to including real people in their game, but I won't get into that here. All that aside, the event itself was very well done technically, with many considering the effects of the show to be the best among any Fortnite concerts. Finally, we have the Ariana Grande concert in Chapter 2 Season 7, which was, once again, very technically well done. This one had more player interaction compared to the others. The third type of concert is the Soundwave series, which will be in an entry later, so I'll explain that then. Despite Fortnite's so-so reputation among outsiders, the concerts have all been exceptionally well received, even by fans of the artist. Secret skins. Secret skins refer to skins in the Battle Pass that aren't revealed at the beginning of the season, but are instead revealed several weeks into the season. Well, at least they used to be. Starting with Chapter 2 Season 2, most secret skins have been collaborations revealed at the beginning of the season, so bonus skins would be a more appropriate label. These skins have a set of challenges to unlock them in their sets. As of me making this video, here are all the secret skins in Fortnite. The Visitor from Chapter 1 Season 4, Enforcer from Chapter 1 Season 5, Aim from Chapter 1 Season 6, The Prisoner from Chapter 1 Season 7, Ruin from Chapter 1 Season 8, Singularity from Chapter 1 Season 9, The Scientist from Chapter 1 Season X, Sorana from Chapter 2 Season 1, Deadpool from Chapter 2 Season 2, Aquaman from Chapter 2 Season 3, Wolverine from Chapter 2 Season 4, The Predator from Chapter 2 Season 5, Neymar Jr. from Chapter 2 Season 6, Superman from Chapter 2 Season 7, The Cube Queen from Chapter 2 Season 8, The Foundation from Chapter 3 Season 1, The Prowler from Chapter 3 Season 2, Indiana Jones from Chapter 3 Season 3, The Herald from Chapter 3 Season 4, Geralt from Chapter 4 Season 1. So yeah, starting with Deadpool from Chapter 2 Season 2, a majority of the secret skins have been collaborations. However, there have been a good chunk of them that were original, typically characters that were very important to the story. A lot of people disliked collaborations as secret skins, especially when they were first starting out, as people disliked the idea of Fortnite becoming a billboard, especially the Battle Pass. But at this point, we're too far gone in that direction for any criticism to mean anything. Plus, many people argued back, saying that the original secret skins were very forgettable, and at least people would want to own a collaboration character. Either way, they're still cool additions to each season's Battle Pass. Gold. This is a strange entry to include, but might as well. Gold is a de facto currency of in-game Fortnite. Introduced in Chapter 2 Season 5, gold can be used for a variety of in-game functions, such as buying items from an NPC at a vending machine, upgrading your weapon at a bench, or hiring an NPC. You can get gold by searching safes or cash registers, killing a player, breaking sofas, beds, and washing machines, or completing a bounty. Gold has overall been a great addition to the game, and the fact that the amount of gold you have carries over between matches is also a nice touch. Before its addition, Fortnite had been struggling to implement a balanced way to purchase stuff like weapons within a match, typically using mats to do so. However, gold fixed that problem and fixed it well. Besides, most stuff you buy isn't too overpowered, and the places you buy stuff are spread out across the island, so it's not like a guy with max gold could get an endgame loadout right at the beginning of the match. Infinity Sword. The Infinity Sword is one of the most infamous items in Fortnite history. Added in Chapter 1 Season 7, it was a mythic rarity melee weapon that was absolutely overpowered. It instantly heals the user to 200 health and 200 shield, regenerates health automatically, deals 75 damage per hit, destroys most structures in the game in one shot, and allows the user to jump around the map. The only downside to using the sword is that you can't build with it, but with how powerful it is, you didn't need to. Upon release, it was universally hated for being completely overpowered. It was so hated that it was only in the game for 3 days, from December 11th to December 14th, 2018. However, for competitive players participating in tournaments, this was still way too long. The sword really messed up the metagame for the tournament, which resulted in some funny outrages like this.
Are you f***ing serious? Why the f*** is Thanos in the game? Sing, 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 sing! Sing, sing, sing! Why is that in the game? Sing, sing! I wasted like 700 mats on that kid. He didn't get shot once. He's flying around the map with his shitty sword. This is sing, 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 bro, around this whole map. He's not dead. He didn't have any mats for like 5 minutes. He's running around with his sword, teleporting in different directions. Are you telling me that there's an item in the game that lets you teleport instantly and hit you for 75? Okay, yeah.
Ultimately, after it got removed, it did return in some limited time modes, such as the Sword Fight LTM. It was also offered as one of the options available to bring back to the game during the Unvaulting event, but obviously very few voted for it. Overall, it was a test run by Epic to see how to implement mythics into the game, and they certainly learned a lot from its failure. Season 0. Season 0, also known as Preseason, refers to the era of Battle Royale before Chapter 1 Season 1. It lasted for around a month, from September 12th, 2017 to October 17th, 2017. This era was more of a testing stage for Battle Royale. There was barely any content due to the simplicity of the game and the short time frame. It simply added the base mechanics and weapons, made some tweaks to weapons, and just had some overall quality of life changes. However, there are some notable aspects to the preseason. As I stated before, the Zapatron was only in the game for a short time within the preseason. The preseason also added traps like the Ceiling Zapper, Wall Dynamo, and Directional Jump Pads. These traps were vaulted shortly after in later seasons. If you ever played during the preseason, please let us know down in the comments, because I'm sure that true OG perspective would be nice to hear. Season Shop. Another relic from the early game, the Season Shop was the game's way of selling cosmetics back in Chapter 1 Season 1. This system was a combination between the modern day item shop and Battle Pass. The way it worked was that once you reached a certain level in the game, you would unlock the ability to purchase one of the items in the Season Shop. The shop didn't rotate every day like it does now. The items within stayed for the whole season. The items you could purchase was the Aerial Assault 1 glider at level 5 for 500 V-Bucks, Aerial Assault Trooper skin at level 15 for 1200 V-Bucks, the Renegade Raider at level 20 for 1200 V-Bucks, and the Raider's Revenge pickaxe at level 35 for 1500 V-Bucks. I'm glad this system ended. It would suck having to buy an item after leveling up and earning it. Patch Notes Removal. When Chapter 2 launched in late 2019, players were quick to notice that Epic had removed patch notes from the game. Patch notes were documentation released by Epic every update showing what was added, removed, and changed in Fortnite. These were a nice, concise way to see what had changed, which is why many people were confused and upset at the removal. While we never got an official explanation, many people theorized that it was because people would frequently react with toxicity to patch notes. They would read something in the notes and get mad about it before playing the game and seeing the change for themselves. So Epic might rather let players experience changes for themselves than have them overreact early to patch notes. Thanos. Thanos is notable in Fortnite history for being the game's first ever collaboration in Chapter 1 Season 4. To build on the hype of Avengers Infinity War, Epic released a limited time mode called Infinity Gauntlet. This game mode allowed players to find the Infinity Gauntlet, a mythic item that only spawned once per match. The player who equipped the gauntlet would have his model changed to that of Thanos from the film, and would then gain powers like a Super Punch, Ground Pound, Energy Blast, and Leap. Like the Infinity Sword, the downside would be that the player would be unable to build or use other weapons. Well, at least it should have, as there was a glitch where a player with the gauntlet equipped could still build and use guns, which honestly looks quite funny. Other than that, the game played out like your typical Battle Royale, one man left standing game mode. 1 year later, with Avengers Endgame, we got another game mode named after the film that saw the return of Thanos. This was a big Team Rumble-like game mode, where one team had players pick up the weapons of the Avengers, while the other team played with the powers of the bad guys. The bad guys would need to collect all 6 Infinity Stones and kill all the opposing team members to win. The player who collects the first Infinity Stone would become Thanos. So that was the second time he appeared in Fortnite. He finally got his own skin a couple years later in 2021. Chapter 1 Golden Age. There are many people who believe that Fortnite's Golden Age, or the greatest era, was during Chapter 1. Obviously, there are multiple factors that support this belief, and we'll go through all of them. First, of course, is nostalgia. The days of Chapter 1 were almost half a decade ago at this point, so many people, especially Fortnite's demographic of younger players, associate this era of the game with better, more carefree times in their lives. Like, someone who was 13 during early Chapter 1 would be 18 currently, so it's no wonder that many people look back in nostalgia. However, to chalk up this belief to nostalgia would be downplaying the merits of Chapter 1. First of all, the game back then would just push out more content more often, and it felt like it was always changing and there was always something fresh. The long-term meta of the game was also much more stable, and the novelty of building had not yet worn off. Obviously, as the chapter progressed, the chapter's reputation began to sour, but whenever anybody talks about the Chapter 1 Golden Age, they usually talk about the first half of the chapter anyway, from the beginning to around seasons 4 or 5. This was back when people started getting into the game, where it was just a game where you'd goof off with your friends. Nobody took it seriously, everybody was just having fun. And I've spoken about it before, but the game back then had its own identity as opposed to now. There were very few collabs, and they didn't dominate the game whatsoever. Fortnite became famous on its own merits, not because it collabed with every franchise it could. Personally, while nostalgia plays a huge factor in the praise for Chapter 1, the truth is the game back then was simple, unique, and fresh compared to today, which is why Chapter 1 can be considered the game's golden age. Shipping. As with any community, there is a subset of people within the Fortnite community who will ship characters together. Shipping refers to the act of making a headcanon that two characters are in a romantic relationship. With Fortnite's vast amount of skins, combined with the fact that they've started to actually give personalities to some of these skins, there has been a thriving shipping community for the game. If you look up ship art for Fortnite, you can see that there are tons of different pairings, some of which are backed up by in-game stories or connections, and others which just seem to be totally random pairings. Subreddit. Fortnite Battle Royale has a subreddit, r/FortniteBR. This subreddit is community ran, but is supported by the developers at Epic. This means that the Epic Games dev team are active on the subreddit and will often comment on posts and make updates. Typically, they will either comment on posts complaining about bugs, assuring that they are working on a fix, or on a video of a funny clip expressing their amusement. As I've covered before, they'll sometimes take skin concepts posted in the subreddit and turn them into actual skins. There have also been situations where developers will reference a post from the subreddit in the game itself, which we will cover later on the Iceberg. The sub itself is what you would expect from a typical video game subreddit: updates, memes, clips, and overall discussion about the game. Ninja. Not too much to speak about here. Tyler Blevins, known better by his online handle Ninja, is a professional gamer, streamer, and YouTuber. While he initially started off streaming competitive Halo, his explosion into super fame began in 2017 when he began streaming Fortnite. The rise of Ninja can be said to be tied to the rise of Fortnite. Both of them fueled each other's growth. He quickly broke both viewership and follower records, and became one of the biggest names in gaming. He would even break into the collective consciousness after several collaborations with celebrities like Drake and Travis Scott, where he would stream Fortnite live with them. While there is a lot more to his story before and after this, what I've said is basically the main points you need to know about him. Since then, he's enjoyed the life of a famous streamer, albeit with some controversies, which we will get into later. Double Pump. Double Pump refers to an old strategy in the game. The pump shotgun is known for dealing massive damage if aimed correctly, but the catch was that it had a slow fire rate. The double pump negated this downside. It involved using two pump shotguns side by side in your inventory. After firing one, you could quickly switch to the other shotgun immediately to fire a shot again. This meant that you could get two shots of massive damage off in less than a second. The pump shotgun could do over 100 damage in a headshot, so the double pump strategy could eliminate a player at full health and shield in less than a second, not even giving them a chance to fight back. A lot of people criticized it for being extremely overpowered and unfun, including professional players. Epic did end up nerfing it in one of the most overt nerfs to a strategy in the game's history, if not the most overt ever. After the nerf, whenever you fired a shotgun, it would activate a cooldown timer to fire any other shotguns in your inventory, which would be around a second. Doesn't seem too long, but it completely destroyed the double pump strategy. While the nerf was necessary, many people still look back on the double pump as a symbol of the golden era of Fortnite. Rocket riding. Another classic Fortnite strategy is rocket riding. Rocket riding is exactly what it sounds like. In early Chapter 1, people quickly figured out that the rocket, after being fired from the rocket launcher, had a hitbox, and if it had a hitbox, you could stand on it. If you stood in front and above of a teammate and timed your jump in correspondence to them firing a rocket, you had a chance to land on top of the rocket and soar into the sky. But make sure to get the timing correct, because if you jump too early, you waste a rocket, and if you jump too late, the rocket hits you and blows up your teammates. In theory, rocket riding is best used to transport your teammates across distances quickly and drop them off at a location where they don't take fall damage. Since your teammates won't be damaged by rockets you fire, you could theoretically fire them towards a structure far away, and they would just fly there on top of the rockets and land there harmlessly when they explode on impact. Bonus points if you damage the opponents there too. However, in practice, rocket riding was used to perform endgame trick shots and mostly to goof off in game. Often the end result of rocket riding meant that you either fell to your death or flew into the storm, so using it to pull a sick trick shot on the last remaining opponent in the game was a smart move. But ultimately, rocket riding is not meant to be a serious strategy. It is a representation of the game's unique and goofy identity back in Chapter 1. Rocket riding became one of the most iconic imagery associated with Fortnite, and for good reason. It was a perfect representation of the tone of the game. While rocket riding is not prevalent anymore, over the years it has had some variations. The most notable being the guided rocket, which would give players the ability to rocket ride solo without the help of a teammate. Also, since you could fire a rocket while currently riding on one, you could basically rocket ride indefinitely by firing a rocket and lining it up behind your current rocket, and then just jump over before your current rocket explodes. Other than that, people have been trying to figure out how to rocket ride any sort of projectile. There have been people able to ride on throwable consumables such as shields and fruit. Hell, it's even theoretically possible to ride on the erratic boat missiles or brute missiles, but pulling it off even in controlled environments is extremely hard, so doing it in-game is out of the question. Control a player. Control a player refers to the following clip of the streamer Mongrel.
Oh, what? Controller player! That is a controller player! It is! I knew it!
The reason why he freaks out over the person eliminating him being a controller player is that there is a belief that due to the aim assist given by controller players, they have an unfair advantage over PC players. Basically, since it's a lot harder to aim a weapon properly using a console controller than with a mouse, aim assist is given, which automatically improves the aim of console players. Many PC players call this unfair, and will often complain whenever they get killed by a controller player, claiming that it was the aim assist that gave them an unfair advantage. Obviously, this is a minority opinion, and many people who hold it are ridiculed. This clip is often used to demonstrate how ridiculous this belief is, as Mongrel refuses to accept his loss, immediately blaming aim assist. Ninja stream sniping. Another streamer controversy. This refers to the time when Ninja falsely accused a player of stream sniping. Stream sniping is when a viewer of a live stream will try and get into the same lobby as the streamer, and if they are successful, will often follow the streamer's position in-game to harass, interact with, or eliminate them. On this particular day, when a player named Icy5 eliminated Ninja on stream, Ninja reported him for stream sniping since the player danced right after eliminating him. Obviously, this is completely ignoring the fact that emoting after you kill somebody is a very common practice in game. For some reason, Ninja really went all in on this accusation, stating that he would go out of his way to ensure Icy5 got banned. Icy5 would defend himself with proof, and eventually Ninja would apologize to him, while still making a backhanded comment claiming that Icy5 had milked the situation dry. Chug Jug With You. Chug Jug With You is a Fortnite parody of the song American Boy. It was created and uploaded by the YouTuber Leviathan back in 2018. However, the song gained immense popularity in 2021 after it spread on various social media. It's easy to see why it became popular. The entire vibe of the song is pretty funny, from the disconnected and silly lyrics to the childlike voice and the overall goofy tone of the song. It made it a funny soundbite to spread around. Plus, the chorus of the original song was quite catchy, so that translated over into this parody, meaning that it also got stuck in your head. After the song became popular, there were a bunch of memes revolving around the song. The most popular was the trend of the Tomato Town Massacre, based off this line in the song "Just Wiped Out Tomato Town." These spawned jokes pretending that the Tomato Town Massacre was a real serious mass killing event, which is quite dark but amusing. World Cup. The Fortnite World Cup is an official esports tournament that allows players to compete in various formats in order to win a cash prize. As of right now, there has only been one World Cup in 2019. Players would be able to qualify in special matches during the weeks leading up to the in-person tournament. After qualifying, players could compete in the World Cup finals. There were 4 different cups to play in, and your final standing would be based on a point system, awarding points based on placement and eliminations. The first cup was the Solos Cup, won by Booga. The second cup was the Duos Cup, won by Nyrox and Aqua. Third was the Creative Cup, a more casual tournament of Fortnite creative minigames. 8 teams competed here, with the Fish Fam winning. Finally, we have the Pro-Am Cup, a Duos Cup where a famous Fortnite streamer would be paired with a celebrity to compete for prize money which would be donated to charity. This was won by Airwalks and RL Grime. While there was a 2020 Fortnite Cup planned, it was cancelled due to the pandemic, and since then we still haven't had another World Cup. Short Night. Short Night was a film festival held in Party Royale. Players could watch 11 short films on the large film screen in the Party Royale map on February 20th, 2021. Technically, this is considered a live event. All of the shorts shown were animated, and they each were only a couple minutes long. Even if I personally wouldn't participate in something like this, I still think that it's cool for Epic to feature more art through the game. Klombo's Death. Klombo was this dinosaur-like creature introduced in Chapter 3 Season 1. These creatures were unkillable by the player and were actually friendly, giving you some loot if you fed them berries. They would only attack you if you attacked them first. The Klombos were very much liked by the community and many considered them cute. I was not one of them. Little aside, if you were active on the Fortnite Fashion Discord during Chapter 3 Season 1, you would have witnessed me form and be the leader of a small anti-Klombo group who advocated for the eradication of these disgusting beasts. Obviously, this was just a joke and all in good fun, but it seems like our little group succeeded in our goals. In Chapter 3 Season 2, the Klombos were removed from the game, but they were hibernating underground. In Chapter 3 Season 3, however, any trace of the Klombos was gone, except for the remains of one of them. This skeleton offers little insight into how they actually died. According to the character Haven, the Klombo disappeared in the same flash of light that brought them to the island, so they may still be alive somewhere else. Well, except for this one poor soul. FNCS. The Fortnite Champion Series, abbreviated to FNCS, is an online tournament that happens every season in the game. It first began in Chapter 1 Season X and has been a tradition since. Like the World Cup, players would play to qualify in the Grand Finals. After reaching the Grand Finals, players would then play 12 games to determine the winner. The winners would then get cash prizes as well as this exclusive Axe of Champions, which is pretty cool. Currently, winners get a redesigned Axe of Champions 2.0. The FNCS finals are kind of a big deal, and Fortnite will make sure to advertise it and even release limited edition cosmetic drops and free Twitch drops. Geno. Another lore entry, Geno refers to the leader of the Imagined Order faction, making him, as of right now, the main villain of the Fortnite storyline. He was first mentioned in the Chapter 2 Season 6 story cinematic, where Agent Jones tells the Foundation that he can lead him to Geno. After being teased in the Chapter 3 Season 2 live event, he was officially revealed in the Fortnite x Marvel Zero War comics. He's a genetic scientist obsessed with perfection. After perfecting himself and essentially making himself immortal, he believed that he could make all of reality perfect. He believes his actions protect reality in the 0 point, and that anybody who opposes him is simply misguided. While he has yet to come to the game, a snapshot of his younger self, called the Ageless, is the Tier 100 skin of Chapter 4 Season 1. Speaking of, this has got to be one of the best, if not the best Tier 100 skin we've ever gotten, if we include the super level styles. I've been complaining that Fortnite's Tier 100s have just been collabs recently, but they really knocked it out of the park with this one. This guy will certainly be my main once I unlock him. It only makes me more excited to see how they implement Geno himself as a skin. Mythic Goldfish. The Mythic Goldfish is an incredibly rare item you can find in a match of Battle Royale. While fishing, you have literally a 1 in a million chance to obtain it. If you're lucky enough to obtain it, you also have a powerful weapon on your hands. If thrown at a player or structure, the mythic goldfish deals 200 damage. That's right, you can one-shot a player at full health and shield by hitting them with a mythic goldfish. There are 3 achievements related to the mythic goldfish. No one will believe you caught this for catching the goldfish, Trophy Hunter for eliminating a player with the goldfish, and Sleep with the Fishes for being eliminated by the goldfish. Fork Knife. Fork Knife is a joke name given to Fortnite. Due to how similar the two sound, many people ignorant of the game will confuse the name with Fork Knife, while others will purposefully call the game Fork Knife as a joke. Epic is aware of this and has referenced it multiple times. The first is through the Fork Knife landmark, which was on the map back in Chapter 1. This was nothing special, just a fork and knife shaped hole in the ground. However, it did have charm. They later released the Fork Knife Pickaxe, which was a dual-wield pickaxe that was just a fork and knife. In Chapter 2, a location called a Fork Knife food truck was added. Zero Build. Zero Build is a game mode introduced in Chapter 3 Season 2. Exactly what it sounds like, this mode removes building from the game. With players now unable to build, they must use natural positioning and cover, but traversal was helped by the then new mechanics of sprinting, mantling, and parkour. Also to help with the newfound lack to build cover was a new overshield mechanic, 50 extra shield you would get at the beginning of a game that would regenerate automatically. Zero Build was instantly a huge success. A lot of people stopped playing Fortnite because of the building skill gap. The competitive players who would practice building in creative all day would absolutely destroy the casual player in a fight, so removing that skill gap brought a lot of people back to the game. Zero Build was initially thought to be a limited time thing, but after how successful the mode was, it definitely is staying permanently. Orange Justice. The Orange Justice is an emote introduced in Chapter 1 Season 4 of the game, but the backstory to this emote is what makes it a legendary part of Fortnite history. On the 30th of March 2018, the Fortnite Boogie Down Challenge began. The challenge asked fans to submit a video of them performing an original dance for the chance to get this dance put in the game, as well as win several other prizes. The challenge was eventually won by Populotus, but this is of no importance to what we're talking about. What is important was this dance submitted by the Orange Shirt Kid. This quickly went viral. Many people were endeared by this submission. From the age of the person submitting, to the unprofessional quality of the video, to the dance being funny itself, there are many reasons why this submission became popular. So to many people's dismay, this submission was not chosen to be the winner, and even worse, it wasn't even a runner-up or honorable mention. There was a pretty big outcry about this, and Epic did take notice. So when Chapter 1 Season 4 rolled around, the Orange Justice emote was part of the free pass for everyone to unlock. So Orange Kid finally got his justice, and his emote was instantly more iconic than the Boogie Down winner. SBMM. Skill-based matchmaking, or SBMM, is a matchmaking mechanic in Fortnite. Essentially, the game will see how well you performed in a match, and then use that data when determining who you're going to play against in the next match. The metrics of performance are the amount of wins and eliminations you have. The idea is that players should be matched with other players of equal skill level. The mechanic was added in Season X to mixed reviews. Some people liked it because now low-skilled players wouldn't be paired against competitive players and actually had a chance to win. However, other better players complained that it now became harder for them to get a victory royale due to the higher amount of skilled players in a lobby. And since your SBMM ranking didn't go down with inactivity, some players would return very rusty after months of not playing and get destroyed by people who play every day. Also, SBMM increased the number of bots found in lobbies, especially lower skilled lobbies, where it was common for more than half the players to be bots. Overall, I think SBMM is a good idea, but it just needs to be tweaked. Fearless. Fearless is a prominent Fortnite YouTuber. Starting off making Call of Duty content, he then started uploading Fortnite videos in October of 2017. These videos would bring insane growth to his channel. His style of content was funny moments and montages, common in that era of YouTube. Currently he has around 7.5 million subscribers. Many people look back on him with lots of nostalgia. However, he's currently inactive and has been for around 2 years. C-Day. In the same vein of Fearless, C-Day is another Fortnite montage YouTuber. He is known for doing self-imposed Fortnite challenges, such as playing with no HUD, playing with max sensitivity, using only a single weapon for the whole match, and even winning a game with only headshots. Most of his content stems from his comedic attempts to try and succeed. However, he is most well known for a series of videos on acting like a default skin or a complete noob. Basically, he would act like a really new and unskilled player, making his opponents lower their guards, and when they least expected it, he would reveal his true skill and destroy them. I wouldn't say C-Day is inactive, but his upload schedule is really sparse. Like, he may upload like only twice a year, and there were multiple times where the gap between videos was so long people thought he was just quitting making videos. As of right now, he sits at 7.4 million subscribers. Soundwave Series. The Soundwave Series is a series of musical shows featuring artists from across the world. The concerts would take place on a custom-built creative island, which would combine the musical performances with player interactivity. As of right now, there have been 5 artists in the Soundwave series: Egyptian singer Mohamed Hamaki, Australian singer-songwriter Tones and I, Japanese pop star and producer Jen Hoshino, and French-Malayan singer Aya Nakamura. These concerts are meant to be both for current fans to enjoy their music, as well as to introduce these musicians to a wide new audience. It's cool that Soundwave features and promotes international artists from outside Fortnite's mostly American player base. Creative Phone. The phone is an item exclusive to the creative editing mode. It is a vital item in the mode, as it controls the player's motion settings as well as manipulate props and tiles. It's so important that it takes the place of the harvesting tool when in Fortnite Creative Edit, and you can't remove it. That's really all, just a brief explanation of an important item. The Block. The Block is a location in Fortnite notable for its unique implementation. It was first added in Chapter 1 Season 7. What made the Block special was that it was meant to show off community creations. The Block would frequently be updated, coinciding with a patch release, to show off a new community creation. All of the locations were pretty cool and unique, and while the Block was initially disliked due to it replacing risky reels, people started to enjoy it because of the creativity and diversity it brought to the map. Unfortunately, as players had just warmed up to the Block, it was removed in Chapter 2 Season 1. However, in Chapter 3 Season 3, we got the Block 2.0. While not as ambitious as the initial Block, the Block 2.0 asked players to create and vote on 3 new buildings to be put in Tilted Towers. Neat. Scissors Death Run. FaZe Scissors is a YouTuber who, like many others, started off with Call of Duty before playing Fortnite. However, he is best known for his death runs. Death runs are obstacle courses made in Fortnite Creative, with the goal of completing it as fast as possible. Scissors' Death Run 1.0 quickly rose to fame because of how difficult it was. Despite only being 10 levels, the course was almost impossible to defeat, with many popular streamers trying and failing. Eventually, this first death run became the most played creative map ever, which is an amazing accomplishment. Since then, Scissors has made several other death runs, all of which have been received well. Tilted Towers Zone Wars. Zone Wars is a creative minigame that simulates endgame battles in Battle Royale, so that players can either practice for these situations or just recreate the fun, high-intensity endgame fights without the more boring early to mid-game part of a Battle Royale match. An essential part of Zone Wars are the constantly moving storm zones, hence the name. Through some periods of Fortnite's history, endgame zones would move around drastically instead of closing completely, presumably to avoid heal-offs determining winners. So mobility and moving to the new zone is an important part of Zone Wars. With that in mind, Tilted Towers is one of the most popular locations for Zone Wars maps to recreate, for all the reasons I mentioned in the entry about the location. There are many maps where you can recreate the intensity of a Fortnite endgame in the dynamic verticality of Tilted Towers, and if you can keep up, it's surely bound to be fun. Jduth's 100 level death run. Alongside Scissors' death run, Jduth's 100 level death run is another popular obstacle course, with many videos and speedruns being made of the map. The levels slowly progress in difficulty from simple tutorials to extremely hard-timed parkour. The map ends with a crudely done boss fight, but to be honest, the focus of the map was on the obstacle course, and it's not like boss fights could be done much better back when it was made. Discovery tab. The Discovery tab is a tab in Fortnite that replaced the game mode selection screen. While the tab kept the game modes as in the previous version, it also allowed the player to pick from many other game modes and minigames. Most notably, Creative Worlds would now directly be shown in the Discover tab. Previously, you'd have to select Creative before even entering Battle Royale, and then you need to load into the Creative Hub and then enter a code to play a map. So being able to access a wide variety of creative maps from the Discovery tab on the main Battle Royale lobby was a huge difference, and showed that Epic was investing more into promoting creative to their players. In fact, map creators could apply to have their maps shown on this page, which could certainly bring a big boost to the amount of people playing on them. The black hole. To end off the first layer, we have the black hole. This is referring to the aftermath of the Chapter 1 Season X event which ended Chapter 1. Basically, in this event, the Seven fired a rocket and asteroid into the 0 points, causing it to collapse into a black hole and suck in the island. Players were also sucked in, finding that the game was now stuck on its permanent screen viewing the black hole. Even logging out and logging back in would just give you the screen. And it wasn't just limited to the game. Fortnite's social media even blacked out, replacing all their profile pictures and content with black screens or an image of the black hole. This period was known as the blackout. The blackout lasted for 36 hours, from October 13th to October 15th, 2019. At the end, the blackout transitioned smoothly into the opening cutscene and first game of Chapter 2. Since then, Fortnite has done a lot of these themed downtimes after events, but nothing ever came close to the hype generated by the blackout. It's honestly a shame that Fortnite Chapter 2 was leaked beforehand, because if nobody knew what was going to happen after, the suspense would have been much thicker. And that is it for part 1 of the Ultimate Fortnite Iceberg. This was just the tip of the iceberg, literally, as we just covered layer 1. I honestly didn't realize that the video would turn out to be this long, but I guess that's just more content for you guys. With that in mind, make sure to stay tuned for the next installments coming soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please show your support by liking, subscribing, and if applicable, using my creator code Rivecha in the Fortnite item shop. Also, please join the discussion below by commenting. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.